I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
Chris Fulton.
All right, Mr. Fulton. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so can you tell me what your position is here at Capital Prep?
Officially, I am the assistant principal, and I also serve as the athletic director. Originally started here at Capital Prep at the very beginning in the grassroots stages, putting together the curriculum, the structure, and infrastructures of it. When the doors opened, I was here as the athletic director and as an English teacher at that time. Progressed up, became dean of students 6 or 7 years later. A year later from there, also got my 092 in administrative leadership and became an assistant principal and have been in this position for 5 years.
Okay, so from your vantage point, because obviously you've seen a lot of Capital Prep from the inception till today, what do you think some of the strengths are of Capital Prep?
I am Capital Prep.
Really, the strengths of Capital Prep is that I say this to people all the time. The bad thing about Capital Prep is it's a small school, and the good thing about Capital Prep is it's a small school. And what I mean by that is you're able to. There's a family closeness to it.
I am Capital Prep.
There's the relationships that you build not only with the students but with the families are strengths for a school such as ours. And more so, you have a bunch of people who are builders, who are looking to continue to build and to make sure that we're looking at kids from the perspective that we're going to provide them with the resources that they need to be successful. And so if you know Capital Prep, it's built on the concept of social justice, but moreover, it's built on this idea that we're going to look at the whole student, and then looking at the whole student, we're going to be able to find some things about the student, and we're going to essentially market that student. So you look at what the principles that Capital Prep is built on, year-round model, kids are able to take college classes, kids have to wear uniforms, they're allowed to take internships. They're not allowed, they're required to do internships. They're required to do 2 sports, and they're able to get the close relationship with through the advisory system that we have here. And once you build that, and once when I say build in parentheses, you build that particular person up, then what we do is we take that person and we present them in front of the world and say, hey, in particular colleges, here is Joe, and this is why you should take Joe into your school because he can add this value or she can add this value, and here's why you should give them money as well.
I am Capital Prep.
What would you say are some of the misperceptions about Capital Prep?
Wow, there is a lot. Some are, first I'd like to start by saying some of them are our fault, and not necessarily by design. So what I mean by that is there's a perception out there that we are aloof and that we're the school on top of the hill, the pretty school on top of the hill that doesn't want to intermingle with the people in Hartford. Well, that's just not true. We have kids from the north end, the south end of Hartford, and from other surrounding communities, and we take the kids as they come. There's a misconception as well that we don't have special education students. We have about 15% of our students are special education, which means that's about the going rate in every particular school. Some schools, unfortunately, can be up in the 20 and 30%, but that's the outlier. Those are the outliers. Typically, the norm is about 15%. So we have what the average is, and so the people in the community in Hartford, because they and they want to be a part of an experience that their kids can grow in. I think there's a growing level of frustration in the community that their sons or their daughters haven't been able to get into Capital Prep, and so what's been said is that Capital Prep only takes the cream of the crop, and that's absolutely not true.
So you're not saying that Hartford students are not in the school. You're just saying percentage-wise, you would want more.
Well, I think the community wants more,
okay,
and we would take more. Mm-hmm.
But you currently have Hartford students here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are a lot of Hartford kids at Capital Prep. Mm-hmm. There has been a lot of Hartford kids who've come through Capital Prep and have been extremely successful. As a matter of fact, our Hartford kids outperform our suburban our Hartford kids typically outperform our suburban kids. So we know that Hartford kids are talented. We know that Hartford kids can compete at every level, in the classroom, in internships, and on athletic fields. So we've had them, and we've had some real success. It's been a pleasure working with kids in Hartford.
I am Capital Prep.
How are you preparing young people and families for the world after high school?
Right here in this office where we sit, we've been able to talk to young men and women about how to be citizens, how to be good people.
I am Capital Prep.
It's just not about whether we get them into college in terms of the grades they're getting, because that's important too. It's about that well-rounded person taking a mistake that a young person might make, that in other circumstances might land them in situations that they can't get out, but being shown the tough love and having them in here and having those real authentic conversations about why, or trying to get them to see why the choices that they made was a really bad choice, and hoping that we can lead them to a path where they say, the next time I'm in this situation, my decision will be different.
I think that's a great segue into my next question. Relationship building oftentimes is underplayed in terms of school development. How do you say Capital Prep building relationships?
Again, we have an advisory system.
I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
That relationship building, that culture that you get to build with the kids that we work with, will get you across the finish line with them in the classroom. That going to their games, going to a family event like a baptism or a wedding, those are things that create a family community. People talk that. They talk about being a family. They talk about, loving kids. They talk about, I'm in this for kids. But what are you willing to do to make sure that this particular kid that's sitting in front of me, I can make sure he or she feels comfortable in this environment?
I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
The only thing Capital Prep did for you was they did what we were paid for, which is we stuck with you and we showed you the emotional, the social, the academic pieces. But the work that is done is your work. It's your work supported by us here at Capital Prep. And so we applaud our kids when they can get to that point. But that relationship building, that is so very, very essential. So very essential.
How does alumni impact Capital Prep?
First of all, I would love for them to impact us more. I'm a big Miami Hurricane fan, so I always look on TV and they're all on the sidelines and things like this. And so recently we had a game, and I think it was in December, where a bunch of our kids came back, and it was just good to see them, and it reminded me of how it plays out when you see Michael Irving and Ray Lewis on the sideline. But it's also important for them to come back here and tell them of the things that are out there in college, the lives that they're living, and how maybe them not seeing it now, how Capital Prep has prepared them to be successful outside of these gates.
So when you talk about success, what defines success for you?
Wow, that's a really good question. What defines success for me? So are you saying are you talking about the end product in the kid, or the end product for me?
You, as in Mr. Fulton, what defines success for you?
I don't think I've been as successful as I need to be. I think success to me is no different than when I was in the classroom. If I had 20 kids in my classroom and I couldn't get through to all 20, then I just feel like I wasn't as successful as I needed to be. And so success means that we help kids, young people, achieve the goals that they have set forth. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has different dreams. But if we as a school can get to that, then we've been successful. What percentage of those kids? I know that 100% is probably unrealistic, but why wouldn't we think that we can get to 100% of the kids? We've been successful in putting 100% of our kids in college that graduate from Capital Prep. They've gone for 12 years. We've been able to get them into 4-year colleges and universities. Some students don't go, And the reason they don't go typically is financial. And so we've tried to do some things to help alleviate that. We've raised some money and put some scholarship stuff in place. So to your question about being successful, I don't know. I get a sense of disappointment or a failure sometimes when I see a kid who has gone to college and is not there anymore. And so I think, you asked a question earlier, where can we get better? That we can get better there too. Our persistence rate, our sophomore persistence rate is really well. It's up near 90%. I like our graduation rate after 4 or 5 years. I think they do it in 6-year intervals, but at the end of that term to be up there as well, 80-90%. That would be successful for me.
Mm-hmm. If there was one highlight that you've had over your 12 years with Capital Prep, what would it be? And why?
Wow. So there was many highlights. Wow. Just watching these kids build this our athletic program up, just watching our kids build the academic program up, just watching our kids build up the social justice project, watching our kids build the lower school families, building these things that I'm talking about. But the thing that stands out in my mind is, and this is for all of the kids like this kid, we had a kid this past year who graduated from Capital Prep. And everything about him suggested that he would never graduate from high school. And not only did he graduate from high school, he got accepted into colleges. And so why this kid, it struck me so hard is here, I go back to my childhood getting out of high school, and I had scholarship football offers on the table. I was a pretty decent student. And it wasn't until I was actually on a college campus and my dad dropped me off on college campus that I really felt like I was going to be on a college campus. I had 2 brothers before me go away to college, but even then I still doubted whether me personally, and there was really no reason for me to doubt that. So I could only imagine this kid who struggled academically, who clearly wasn't as strong as me as an athlete, wasn't as strong as me as in academics. And when we walked off the stage, that kid cried and his family cried. Man, it was an emotional scene, and it made me extremely, extremely proud to have worked with that kid. Because I do think that people do see this as their last chance. And for us to be able to help that family, make that work for the family, that's what I think of right now.
So in closing, where do you see Capital Prep going in the next couple of years?
Man, we're builders, man. We're builders.
Mm-hmm.
I am Capital Prep. I am Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep.
I would really hope and pray that that adults would sit down and have real conversations. We tell our kids when our kids have disputes that this is how you work through things, but yet we're struggling with that. And I say we're, meaning myself. I'm struggling with trying to see the vision of the district, and I'm not here just for Capital Prep. I work for Capital Prep. If I was at Hartford High, I would go as hard for Hartford High as I go for Capital Prep today. Mm-hmm. And so, but what I'm really working for are kids in Hartford. And so I do think that Capital Prep is a model of excellence. I do think that Capital Prep could be a part of the answer in Hartford. I think some people's resentment toward Capital Prep is them not having the access to some of the things that those other kids from Hartford have had access to. And I'll say that I would like those kids to have access to that. I would like to be able to have kids marketed at their strengths and put out there in front of the world so they can be successful. I think it's important that our kids all of our kids in the city of Hartford have an opportunity, not the same opportunity. And I think that's where we're gonna, as a district, we're gonna fall a little short because we're trying to fit everybody into the same hole, and it just doesn't work that way. Fair is not equal. And so we have to look at what's fair for all, not what's equitable for all, what's fair for all. Because a kid who has, who needs door-to-door service requires more resources and more money than the kid who's physically able to get here on their own. And so, but we do want to give them the same opportunities, or provide them with the opportunities that they want to have in their lives. And so, I think Capital Prep is a model for that. I think we should all be sitting down having a conversation about how to make that happen for Hartford kids. And I think Capital Prep is that place for it.
Okay. So one of the questions that I've asked everybody is, do you believe that our kids are geniuses? And if so, why?
See, I had some of a different monster. So yes, I'm a firm believer in all of our kids have something or things about them that are superb, that are genius. If you sat down with some of these kids and you talk to them and you could see them, you would find that genius. You could find that genius. And so some people are just artistically gifted. Some kids are intuitive beyond belief. Mm-hmm. Some kids are, obviously athletic to a point that you're like, wow, that's phenomenal. And so it is our job, like I said earlier, if I have 20 kids in my class and I don't get to all 20, I feel like I didn't do the job I was put in there to do, because it is my job to figure out how this kid learns. It is my job to make sure that kids are, that their abilities are transformed. And if I'm not looking to bring that out of kids, then I haven't done my job.
I am Capital Prep.
I'm definitely Capital Prep.
I am Capital Prep for life.